just fine. I also recommend you have a copy of the 2020 National Electric Code, NFPA 70, because there are going to be some times we're going to reference directly to NFPA 70. And so it'd be handy to have your code book available and tabbed up and ready to go, especially if you're going to be planning to take an exam anytime soon. Just to clarify, Doles Enterprises is Michael and Sharon Doles, and that's the picture of us you see. And we just appreciate everything you folks can do to help us promote this channel by liking and subscribing. So please continue through the videos and support us in any way you can so we can continue to offer this kind of training free of charge to other folks. You have a blessed day. The building final inspection process. So all rough-in inspections have passed, installation has passed, and now we're ready for the final inspection. Let's begin. Key items that the inspector will be looking for on the final inspection will include the following. The building must be completed and ready for inspection. Buildings may not be occupied prior to a final inspection being passed and a certificate of occupancy being issued. The building department does not inspect cosmetic items. Do not contact the inspector to perform a punch list. Prior to scheduling a final inspection, the termite treatment letters and all required documentation should be made available. Emergency 911 address numbers as assigned must be permanently posted on the house. If the home is more than 50 feet from the road, they must be posted at the entrance as well. Numbers must be 4 inches or larger. More on this subject later. Double cylinder interior keyed deadbolts are not permitted by R311.2 of the International Residential Code. A 3-foot by 3-foot landing shall be provided outside of each exterior door. The door leading from the residence to the garage is considered an interior door. An exterior door, other than the required egress door, with 2 or less risers is exempt from the landing requirement provided the door, other than an exterior storm or screen door, does not swing over the landing. The crawl space shall have all vegetation and construction debris removed. Seal all foundation penetrations. Vapor retarders must be in place for crawl space final inspections. IRC R319 requires the address to be posted. The address must be legible and visible. Characters shall contrast with the background. They shall not be spelled out, not be less than 4 inches, and they shall be maintained. A great deal of time will be spent by the inspector looking at stairs, guards, decks, any area of a fall potential. Stairs with 4 or more risers require a handrail. Handrail height shall be a minimum of 3/4 inches and a maximum of 3/8 inches, and be consistent from leading edge of lowest to highest tread. Handrails must be graspable. Handrails on open sides of stairs over 30 inches from grade plane or finished floor shall have guards provided as required by the code. Handrails must be on the inside wall of winders. Guards, infill components, balusters, and panel fillers shall be designed to withstand a horizontal applied load of 50 pounds or an area equal to 1 square foot. Porches, decks, balconies, ramps over 30 inches above grade plane require guards. Guards must be a minimum of 36 inches in height. Guards cannot allow passage of a 4-inch spear and must resist a 200-pound lateral load. Elevated screen porches require guards. More on guards later. All decks, porches, and balconies must be completed and to code. Enclosed accessible areas under stairs, including unfinished basements, must have 1/2-inch gypsum board inside walls and soffit per R302.7. For further review, as for the stair railing height, they can be placed within 34 to 38 inches and shall be provided on at least one side of a flight of stairs having 4 or more risers. If they are placed up against a wall, they should have a clearance from the wall of not less than 1 1/2 inches. They must be continuous for the full length of the flight of the stairs and shall begin at a point directly above the bottom riser to a point directly above the top riser. The inspector in the garage areas may be looking at the following during their final inspection. The garage shall be separated from the residence and the attic area by not less than a 1/2 inch gypsum board on the garage side. Habitable rooms above a garage shall be separated by not less than 5/8 type X gypsum board or equivalent on the ceiling side of the garage. Doors shall be 1 3/8 solid wood or metal. Reference R302.5.1. During the inspection, if a garage door is present with a return, the confirm of the emergency return of that garage door will be initiated. Garage floors shall be sloped to facilitate the flow of liquid out of the garage. And where appliances are located in the garage, the impact protection requirements of IRC section M1307.3 will be required. Typically, this will be a bollard or another approved means that must be pre-approved by the authority having jurisdiction. One of the most important inspection items during the final inspection will be for the smoke detectors. All smoke detectors will be tested. Access to test smoke detectors is the responsibility of the permit holder, not the inspector. Smoke detectors must comply with UL 217. At a minimum, smoke detectors must be located each story, including the basement and habitable attics, each sleeping room, and the adjoining area. The adjoining area needs to be immediately as close as possible to the sleeping room. 3 feet from the bathroom door, 3 feet from a vent or paddle fan. The house power and the battery backup must meet the requirements of 314.6 in the NEC, and they must be interconnected unless they're using like a Nest type system, and that's required to be at 120 volt, and each device has to be installed per the manufacturer's installation guide. During the final inspection at the exterior building, the exterior must be weatherproofed and rodent-proofed. All penetrations should be sealed. Roof drainage. All dwelling units shall have a controlled method of water disposal from roofs that will collect and discharge roof drainage to the ground surface not less than 5 feet from foundation walls or to an approved drainage system. This is the requirement we see for splash walks that is quite often listed. Chimneys shall extend not less than 2 feet higher than any portion of a building within 10 feet, but shall not be less than 3 feet above the highest point where the chimney passes through the roof. For several years, I was an investigator with the South Carolina Department of Labor Licensing and Regulations Residential Builders Commission. The #1 complaint that I dealt with was water and moisture issues. A lot of times it was water getting away from the house. The grade away from the foundation must fall 6 inches within the first 10 feet or have adequate swell. Gutters with 5-foot downspout extensions may be required where site conditions warrant. Downspouts require splash walks or other approved means to divert water away from the building. An approved means to divert water away from the building is a must. Finished grade must be established, all landscaping complete. We highly recommend inspectors take photographs of the houses on their final inspection because grade does change after they leave the site. Energy code considerations during the final inspection. As mentioned earlier in this program, the majority of states currently use the 2009 International Energy Conservation Code. We encourage you to reference the code requirements for the climate zone relative to your jurisdiction. For our example, we're using Climate Zone 3. The Energy Compliance Certificate must be posted on or in the electrical panel box, filled out completely and legible. Currently, in the jurisdiction that I serve, the 2009 Energy Conservation Code and the 2018 IRC should be identified on the certificate. The building thermal envelope shall be durably sealed to limit air infiltration per the 2009 IECC. Access hatches and doors from conditioned to unconditioned spaces shall be weather stripped and insulated. Attic access, except unvented attics, knee wall doors, or drop-down stairs, must be sealed. Concerning crawl spaces, exposed earth in unvented crawl spaces shall be covered with a Class 1 vapor retarder with overlapping joints taped. Duct shafts, utility penetrations, knee walls, and flue shaft openings to the exterior or unconditioned spaces shall be sealed. Recessed light fixtures shall be airtight, IC rated, and sealed to the drywall. The exception are fixtures in conditioned spaces. HVAC and energy compliance certificates must be made available prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Attic insulation certificates and rulers will be observed by the inspector at the time of the final inspection. All documents required by the International Energy Conservation Code are required prior to issuance of the certificate of occupancy. All documents should be made available to the inspector prior to or on the day of the final inspection. Duct tightness and visual inspection compliance certifications must be available for the inspector. The duct tightness test is required both post-construction and at the rough end. As an example, Climate Zone 3 has certain minimum fenestration, insulation, and energy requirements that must be reviewed in the process. Per South Carolina amendment, the blower door test is not required with the current state energy code. An energy efficiency certificate is required in 2009 IECC section 401.3 to be posted on or in the electrical panel box that lists the levels of efficiency installed. The label will provide the inspector with the information needed to determine if the home complies with the International Energy Conservation Code, and will also provide the homeowner with information on the levels of efficiency installed in the home. One final note. Most inspectors, if the energy certificate is not posted, will fail a final inspection. The duct tightness compliance form is another form required at the time of the final inspection. All insulation installed within the building thermal envelope must have a label indicating the R value, or it must have a certificate verifying the type of insulation, the thickness, and the installed R value. A certificate for blown insulation must provide the installed density, coverage, and number of bags of insulation. Markers are required. The thickness of blown or spray roof ceiling insulation must be written in inches on markers that are installed at least one for every 300 square feet throughout the attic space. The markers must be affixed to the trusses or joists and marked with the minimum installed thickness with numbers not less than 1 inch in height. Each marker must face the attic access opening. SPF thickness and installed R values must be listed on certification provided by the insulation installer. For air permeable insulation, fiberglass or cellulose insulation in vented attics, baffles must be installed adjacent to soffit and eave vents. At a minimum, 1 inch of space must be provided between the insulation and the roof sheathing and at the location of the vent. The baffle must extend over the top of the insulation inward until it is at least 4 inches vertically above the top of the insulation. Any solid material such as cardboard or thin insulation sheathing is permissible at the baffle insulation dam. All access points between conditioned and unconditioned spaces must be sealed. Recessed lighting fixtures inside the building thermal envelope must be sealed to limit air leakage between conditioned and unconditioned space. Fixtures must be IC rated and labeled with an air leakage rate. Recessed fixtures must have a gasket or caulk between the housing and the interior finish. Okay, you've made it this far. Thank you for your attention. I ask please that you buy me a cup of coffee. Like and subscribe on YouTube so that we can continue these videos for other folks. And if you'd like a copy of the residential inspection checklist, or maybe a little quiz that we have written up based on the residential code, you can get that by sending me an email to the email address you see here, which is dolesmichael@gmail.com. So please like, subscribe, support this work. If you would like to have Doles Enterprises come out and do a presentation in person to your group, we can certainly discuss that. Just depends on logistics and a few other things, but we'll do whatever we can. So visit our other videos, and we appreciate everything that you're doing, and we appreciate your attention. Mike Doles again. Just wanted to let you know that we're concluding this session, and I ask you to please go to the next session and take your time. Please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is how we're able to offer this free. And also anything you can do to buy me a cup of coffee or any other way you can do to help support this, we certainly do appreciate it. So just proceed to the next session. Take it at your own pace. Don't become overwhelmed. You're not going to know it all to begin with if you're just now starting out in this profession as a building inspector.